Welcome to episode 16 of the What Happens Next podcast. And in this video, I'm going to tell a story. It's a story about community and also about loneliness, and actually how we can learn a lot when we're thinking about transition and change in our lives, about social well-being. Now, it's a story that I got told. I mentioned last week during the podcast that I used to host a podcast about kindness. This story came from an interview I did back then, and it's about an amazing bloke called Jason. So without further ado, let me share the story of Jason and share the insights in terms of what we can learn about kindness, but also our own social well-being and happiness when we're thinking about what happens next. So welcome back if you're a regular viewer of the What Happens Next YouTube channel. We are ultimately designed to share content, share ideas, share concepts that are going to help you work out what happens next in your life. Because interestingly, I work with a lot of people who are at a crossroads in their life, and they're wondering what happens next and approaching that period where it can be quite a scary time. So who am I to talk about this sort of stuff, and why should you listen to me? My name's Chris Dames. I'm a chartered financial planner, and I run a business called Savello. I've done it for a number of years. And where we primarily help people is working out how much is enough financially so they can live the lives they deserve with the money they've got. But what we find is that because we're in a position of trust with our clients, we end up talking about all of the challenges we face when we're in our 50s and 60s and thinking about what happens next. And what I wanted to do with the What Happens Next project, and you can find a lot more on this channel. I'd love for you to like and subscribe if you think this is going to float your boat, for want of a better phrase. But you can find out loads more on www.whathappensnext.life, is start talking about not only the financial challenges we face in our 50s and 60s when we're thinking about what happens next, but also some of those other challenges. If we've spent decades at work, what defines us after work? What do we do with our time when we're at that point? How do we carve a life we want with the additional time we've got if we've reached a point of financial independence and we're trying to work out what to do? And the story I want to share today alludes to that, and is about a guy called Jason. Now, give you a bit of context. I met Jason through work a few years ago, but actually what I was curious about was talking to him about kindness. Now, you might, if you know me and you've watched some of my content before, a couple of years ago, I wrote a book about kindness called The Kindness Project. So what's a chartered financial planner doing talking about kindness? Great question. Just before I was 40, I wanted to be a bit of a kind of person. I also had a teenage daughter, and I wanted to do this project where we both worked together and learnt to be whatever kind meant to us. So we interviewed over 100 people to try and work out what makes you kind and how to be kind. We learnt a lot along the journey, and certainly a lot of that is shared in the book. So at the minute, I'm spending a lot of time writing the What Happens Next book. I'm 50,000 words in as I speak to you today, and currently working to make sure that the book adds as much value as we can to people thinking about that next stage in their lives. Now, the book's not ready yet. It won't be out until sometime in 2025. I'm working hard to get it finished. But what you can do is sign up for the book waiting list, so you're one of the first people that gets access. You can simply do that by visiting whathappensnext.life/book. Join the waiting list today, and you'll be one of the first persons to get access to the book and some extra goodies when it comes out. If you'd like to buy a copy of the book, we'll put a link in the comments below. All of the money goes to charity, and we're really proud of the money we've raised by doing that. But one of the guys that I spoke to about kindness was Jason. And Jason said to me, I've got a story about kindness that might surprise you. I was like, great, Jason, tell me that story. So Jason said, a few years ago, I was working for a big, large London financial institution, and somebody said to me, who worked for the same firm, have you heard about befriending? Now, befriending is a concept where you help somebody who's slightly older, and the way that you help is just effectively being somebody they can have a conversation with. And Jason said, I like the idea of that because an hour a week I got to spend time with a lady who I wanted to help. And effectively the relationship started in a sort of benevolent way. It started in a way where Jason felt that he was just giving this lady an hour of his time to help her. Now, why is it so important? It's so important because loneliness has such a negative impact on our health. And there's recent research to say that loneliness has a negative health impact equivalent to 15 cigarettes a day. So Jason wanted to help this lady. Now, Jason, who was in his 40s at the time, got introduced to a lady called Dennis. Now, Jason's Scottish, he lives in London. Dennis lives up in Liverpool. And Jason said, I had a lovely initial chat with her. But after a few sections, I realised something, Chris. And I realised that actually I thought I was being benevolent. I thought I was just helping her. And effectively, we just turned into friends. So not only had her social well-being improved, but Jason's social well-being had improved as well by having this relationship with Dennis. And Jason found this fascinating because Dennis gave him a window on the world that in his normal circles he would normally never have. Dennis was around in the times when the Beatles were playing the Cavern Club, and she went to see the Beatles in the Cavern Club, and Jason loved the Beatles as well, so they shared an interest in stories like that. I think the point I want to make with this video, and when we think about social well-being specifically, particularly when we're thinking about what happens next, is sometimes we think social well-being can be enhanced just by spending time with friends. And if we think about other ways we can improve our social well-being, particularly, befriending schemes that might mean we're giving back plus enhancing our social well-being, it might be a way to think about how to do some good in the world, but also how for you to feel less lonely and help somebody feel less lonely too. Hopefully that's useful, and I'll see you on the next What Happens Next video. Part of the issue we've got when we're thinking about what happens next in our lives is having the self-awareness, having the introspection to be able to think about what the gaps in our well-being are. And we're doing loads of work at the minute with what happens next to build solutions that are going to help you think about well-being in a nuanced way when you're thinking about how it applies to your life. One of the first things we've built that you can use today is our What Happens Next quiz. It's free to do, takes about 5 minutes, but what it will do is give you an insight into the areas of strengths when it comes to your well-being and the areas you might want to improve. You can take the What Happens Next quiz at whathappensnext.life/quiz, and I hope it helps you in your journey to work out what happens next for you. So I hope that story was useful, gives you a bit of inspiration for today. But I'd love to know what you do in your life to both enhance your own social well-being, something that in our experience is often a gap with a lot of people thinking about what happens next. Often we focus so much on the world of work and the world of business and the world of accumulating financial wealth. There's often a gap when it comes to thinking about our social connections and friendships. But I'd love to know from you, and you can email us at hello@whathappensnext.life. what happens next life, the insights that you found from just building more social connections. But also, we'd love to know more about how we can add value at What Happens Next. So please feel free to let us know the questions you've got, the challenges you face, everything that's going on in your world when you're thinking about either retirement or the next chapter of your life in your 50s and 60s. Because what we want to do is invite more guests, share more insights, help you navigate that stage of your life as successfully as possible. So without further ado, I hope you have a lovely day. We'll see you next time on What Happens Next, and I look forward to receiving your emails. Have a lovely day. Bye.